Well, if ever there's a filter that I think landscape photographers should have in their landscape photography bag, it's this, the 10-stop neutral density filter. And today I'm going to show you how I use my 10-stop neutral density filter to get those real smooth looking images you see every now and again. Also, I'll be talking to you about foreground element and visual separation from the elements within your image. Plus, another thing I'll be showing you is something that I've been using for some time to frame my shots. So having said that, I'll grab my gear, go down to the river here at Yarramundi, and I'll talk to you about Yarramundi in a moment, and I'll see what I can find. There is some good subjects to be photographed here. It's stopped raining, thank God. But yeah, look, the light isn't the best, but with a 10-stop neutral density filter, let's see what we can achieve. Let's go. Okay, as you can see, I've just taken this shot here and it turned out quite nice. Had to bring the sky down a bit. The sky was obviously brighter than the actual foreground. And if you notice, I'll put this image up at the end of this video, but you'll notice this is what I call visual separation. Where I've got the water in front of me, it's the foreground, then the mid-ground is the timber, the sunken timber, then the mid-ground or the background is the water going over to the reeds or the bush over the other side of the river. So by placing my camera around about waist level, I was able to make sure that the timber didn't break the background, or what I call background horizon line. And it's very important to look at your scene before you actually take the shot. I think we're going to get more rain here, so I might have to move. I'm working on sandbanks here. But this is what I call visual separation. You need to visualize the image and look at the scenes within the image to create the 3D effect. It can be quite challenging, but once again, if there's anything you can take out of this video today is the fact that read your histogram before and after each shot, whether you're doing long exposure or not. Take meter reading from the ground. That'll be your base exposure. This is if you're doing long range type of or slow motion or long exposure photography. But these are the things you must consider, and I think this will turn out to be a nice shot. I'm happy with it. I took probably 6 or 7 of them to get it right. I ended up with a 44-second exposure time, and it smoothed the water right out. And by using a 10-stop neutral density filter, which really is a great filter to use once you get to know how to use them, and the 3-stop grad to bring the sky down, this should turn out to be quite a nice image. I'm very happy with it. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about today is what I've been using to grab my composition and be very thorough with it. And what I used to use a thing called a view catcher, little piece of plastic with a slide, but I found over the years they were just too small. So I thought, what can I use? Well, me being me, I'd done a bit of investigation. I come up with this. That's right. An empty picture frame, a 6x5 picture frame. You're probably thinking, what the hell am I doing with an empty picture frame out here taking beautiful photos? Well, basically I use this to frame my shots. I'll show you. This will be the first shot of the morning. As you can see, I've got all the timber here in the water, and this is where I'll use the 10-stop neutral density filter. So all I do is I hold it like that and I bring it back. Picture frame, hold it back, move it forward. Now by doing this, I've got a 99.9% chance of knowing what focal length I need to use. So by moving it out, that's a zoom lens, moving it back towards the eye, that's wide angle. So I know I need about a 20mm focal length to photograph that timber in that water. This, for around about $5 or $6 from one of your junky stores, you know, fantastic. I've had people come up to me and say, what are you doing with that empty picture frame? I said, well, quite frankly, I'm framing my shots like that one there. How good's that? How good's that? Unbelievable. Who would have thought this? And I've been using this for about 18 months, 2 years. And yeah, empty picture frame. How good is it? Well, I've taken a couple of shots here, all long exposure. And as I said, with long exposure photography, especially using the 10-stop neutral density filter, you take a base image first and get a base exposure. Say for argument's sake, you're at f11, ISO 100, and your exposure time is say 1/100. So what you do then, you put a grad in to control the sky if you have to. Then you autofocus and then get that focusing right and then switch to manual focus. Then put your camera in bulb mode. Use a shutter release, cobra release like I've got here. And then what you do, you calculate your exposure. Now you can do it mathematically, but there's apps on your phones now and you just use it, and that's what I use. Saves time, saves a lot of hassle and fluffing around. So basically, that gives me, if it's at 1/100th of a second, f11 ISO 100, about 35 seconds exposure time. So then you take that shot, then you have a look at your histogram. I can't stress any more importance to the histogram. That will make your photography so much better if you can learn and read and understand the histogram, without a doubt. And if you've got room to push to the right, well then you can extend your shutter time or your exposure time. I just took a 6-minute exposure there, and I'll put that photo up at the end of this video. But also too, as you can see here, I've got visual separation. I've got a log in the water here, you've got the water, you've got the reeds, and then the background. So visual separation is naturally obviously the same with composition. But the thing is, you have to get it in layers. This is all about layers, 3D layers. And by raising the camera at say that height, which is, I'm 6'5", so it's about here on me, you're able to get that elevation. You're not using, like the foreground isn't stopping you seeing the midground and background, like I did with the sunken timber over here. The picture frame, as I said, you use the picture frame to frame up your shots. Just helps you so much, you know, $5 or $6, and you can just do this all day, and you'll work out your composition. You can do it portrait or landscape orientation with the picture frame, 6x5 inches. But also what it does using the picture frame, it just simplifies everything for you. And the good thing about this is, with long exposure photography or any type of landscape photography, and you're working at your composition, it slows you down. I mean, we're living in a world where it's 1,000 miles an hour, and you know, I'm over that, and I just like to come out to places like this. It's getting quite hot now after the rain, very humid, and just to slow down and enjoy what's around you, you know. Also too, with the filters, make sure you have a cloth to clean them, a microfiber cloth, and you just wipe those, skew the flies away, wipe the glass down. And also too, a little bit of a tip, this is a Hoodman loop where I put it at the back of the screen and I can see how my exposure is. You can pick these up anywhere from say $40 up to $300, but buy one for about $50 or $60 on Amazon. Fantastic thing to use, by geez. You know, you got bright sunshine here on the back of the viewfinder, and by using this I can see what I've done or what the image is like. So there's just a few hints and tips today. That's about it. I think I won't know actually with the long exposure. This is another thing. With long exposure photography, you don't really know how good the image is going to turn out until you get it back home and put it in the computer. And by geez, I've had some failures, you know. I never get it perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. There's flukes, but I think I got it right. I think I got it right this morning. The light was really, really strange here. And that's what what you have to take in consideration. The light changes so quickly, so you have to monitor your exposure times. This is when you're doing long exposure photography. You have to monitor your exposure times because it changes so quickly. But this one here at 6 minutes, I think, fingers crossed, when I put it back in the computer back at the office, I think it just might turn out okay. So that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please put your comments down below and I certainly get back to you, I always do. And I really appreciate your support. So as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep shooting, keep smiling. Bye for now. I'm going to grab a coffee.